for session of the Toledo Planning Commission. Could we start out by please rising and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let me start out by indicating all members are present, so we do have a quorum. And calling for other business items, we're going to put that on to
Yeah, and Cindy's gonna.
other business at number 9. Okay, can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
I move we accept the consent agenda.
I will second that.
Any discussion? I don't see anything on the business licenses that attracted attention.
No red flags there.
Huh?
No red flags there.
No, sir. Anybody else? And call a vote, all in favor, say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carries. New business, zoning research. The city council at their last meeting passed a resolution to request the planning commission to delve into the subject of zoning for the city, not only in the existing city, but in our future UGA and possibly in our urban reserve. If we end up with an ILA with the county to manage that UGA. So I would suspect that we're going to probably want to have a workshop so that we can throw some ideas back and forth. And I think our zoning codes right now are pretty ancient in their and what they allow people to do in areas of the city that we probably, in the citizens of Toledo, do not want to have happen. Case in point was the multi-level apartment building in the middle of the town across the street from the park. So I think we need to address those issues, perhaps address the issues of how we manage to produce a retail strip along our main drag, which would be, I believe, everybody's ultimate goal, and then deal with how we handle future growth with regards to what's allowable, what's not, how to comply with state law with regards to setting aside land the way it's zoned, not to prevent certain things from happening the state law requires us to do. Where we want our light commercial or heavy commercial, if we do, etc. So it's going to probably take some time and a lot of input, and I'm thinking that it probably won't be one workshop, it'll probably be several. So how do y'all feel about either meeting an hour before this meeting and do that over the next couple of months, or 2 or 3 months, to see what you can come up with? And
I like that, Steve. I do like that.
Are you
We've already
available?
set aside this evening, so
so maybe from 5 to 6 we can.
yeah.
We're assuming that like over 2 to 3 months we'll be able to do that,
Well,
because that would be.
I think probably we'll end up giving each other homework to do.
Absolutely.
And Todd will be involved, I would assume, as well, so that you can get his input on what we're allowed and not allowed to do.
Sure.
I'm not sure if it's, Todd will be able to speak to this, but I'm not sure ultimately that it won't have to go to public hearing anyway, so that the public has a chance to respond and dictate what they may wish to see happen with their own city. So so those are all things we need to look at and to prepare to get to work on. So anybody have any questions on that?
It'd be a closed workshop. We come in here and we meet, and then if the planning commission meeting happens, then people come in.
No, all workshops are open.
Workshops are open
Okay.
meetings, so
All right.
because we have a quorum.
Yeah.
So are you in agreement on an hour before the April?
Yes.
commission?
Do we think that'll be sufficient?
Well, like I'm saying, I think once Todd gets back from vacation, we can enlist his help with identifying the various areas we need to attack. And we can probably do that in our first meeting, you know, set aside some homeworks for everybody so that we can, you know, he can tell us how much of the public's input we need at which time. So that we handle it correctly. You know, this is all for the benefit of our citizenry and we want to make sure that we do it the way they'd like it done, so.
That's a good point. With his input and assistance, we can probably move a lot faster than
I think so.
we have workshops in the past. I'm in favor.
And along those, the same lines, speaking about growth, as you know, we're right in the middle of the county state required 20-year growth management plan. And as part of that plan, we have to,
Thank you.
as you all know, the county dictates to you, essentially tells you where they want you to grow. And then you go back to the county and present your case on whether you agree with that assessment or you don't agree with that assessment and why. And based on our growth, I think Todd had some ideas that, you know, in the idea of staying away from the downtown core of the city, that we allow development to continue out 505 towards highway exit 63 along that corridor. I think there's a lot of things that need to be answered to allow that to happen, but the county wants some kind of an indication from council so that Scott can move forward. Now, of course, our recommendation is not beholden to the city council, who is the ultimate authority. But I think Todd's intent was to get us to say, yay, this is which way we want to go. And then since it's the planning commission, they can always say mea culpa, the city council can, then it gives the county what they want. And we always have the ability to backtrack, backpedal and say, yeah. Planning council didn't, or planning commission didn't know what they were talking about, so. You know, this is the way the city council really wants to go. It gives us some out.
Makes sense.
But they're moving on that pretty quickly. As you know, that growth management plan didn't even get started until 6 months late. And I'm sure Todd, when he gets back, is going to be hustling. So you had a chance to look at some of the maps that he provided, which are wonderful maps. And I'm sure that he will be detailing what the allowed development in those areas might be, but for now, I guess my question to planning commission is, do we want to go ahead with that? A recommendation to city council that we move down 505 towards 63 as our future growth intent.
Every discussion we've had so far, I think we were all in agreement that that was the way to go.
I think that direction makes a lot of sense.
It does. Make more sense than anything.
We even have residents that want it to happen along the way. So,
Well, I think so. I think that, you know, we have to be cautious that these decisions cannot be made by state law based on the residents of that area wanting or not wanting to become part of our city. But it makes the most sense from a geographical standpoint in our future growth towards Highway 5, because we certainly don't want the county to come in and develop that area. And Winlock, I think, has reached as far as it's going to on the other side of the freeway, that one lot they got last year. So, can I get a motion on that resolve? The motion would be to recommend to council that we move forward with our growth intent along the 505 corridor towards exit 63.
That would be the motion I would make.
Could I get a second on
I will
that?
second that motion.
Any further discussion? With no discussion, call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Other business, let me say before we go to the other business. The city is interested in having a workshop both city council and planning commission would be involved. And that's to discuss the relative merits and our intentions with regards to impact fees on new development. Whether it be schools, traffic, parks, fire, etc. We have new development online that's going to happen. One's been approved. We've got with the annexation, we're gonna have more development. And we should have those in place by the time those things happen so that the city takes the benefit of those. So that is April 15th. At what time?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock,
Four-
yeah.
4 o'clock?
4 to 5:30.
4 to 5:30 and council chambers here. Are we all available?
I am not.
You're not.
That should be, I mean, that should be fine. You don't necessarily have to have your whole commission there. It's
Yeah.
Mostly if you're all interested, great.
Okay,
So,
but that is the date of the workshop and the time, so if you can be here.
Yeah.
Other business?
Oh, so the, just going back to the tax stuff, I didn't really have a lot of answers for last time, so I put this together.
for
and-
short-term rental.
Yeah, for the short-term rental, sorry. So, there's a lot of info here. I'm sorry you guys didn't get it for right now. So what it comes down to is we're currently collecting the amount of tax that we can collect. We're collecting 9.8%. 2% of it is this hotel motel tax, and that comes out of the state sales tax. The state actually gives it back to us. And then there's a special motel hotel tax that we've gone after. And so that brings us to 9.8, and you can see what everyone, the local rates, what everyone else is collecting. It's pretty standard to collect the two. There are a couple cities that are a little higher, but that's because they have like a convention center or some type of trade center there, and it has to do with the tourism promotion area. So I've also attached some RCWs, and at some point, we might be able to request that we get more, but as of right now, the way the RCW reads to me is that at 2%, that second 2% is what we can collect. So there's a couple things that have to happen through LTAC. It doesn't say anywhere in there that we couldn't ask for more or that we're necessarily tapped out. It's just, it's not real clear. So it's one of those things where it wouldn't hurt to push it. But the 4% is what most cities are at right now, unless they have that tourism area. So
Okay, is this something that we could table and give the commission members an opportunity?
Yep.
to go over
absolutely,
this? So why don't we table that?
yeah. So this was the beds and heads tax that you guys were looking into. So yeah, it's called it's the special motel hotel tax.
Yes.
Oh.
Special color.
Special.
Rachel, you just said 4% about something. What was that?
So 2% is coming out of the state sales tax, which is 6.5. So that's just standard. So the state actually gives that back to us.
Yeah.
And then the local county tax is 1.3%. And then the special hotel motel tax is 2%.
Yeah.
So we actually end up getting 4% back that we
Gotcha.
can use only on tourism type things. So that's where all that money is going to go in towards. We can use it for things like cheese days or anything tourism related, but that's all we can use it for.
You're funding cheese days now, did you know?
Yep.
Did not know that.
Way to go, way to go, Daniel.
So there's like an earmarked account of
Yes.
money that we can do that with?
Yes.
Okay.
Have we been earmarking it so far?
Yes and no.
Right.
We have been earmarking the money that we get back in, but the taxes were not reflecting 100% correctly on the back end of our Kemp Olson. So that's been fixed since then, so that we will see more revenue this year there.
So the
Okay.
state mandates that can only be used for tourism.
The heads and beds.
Yeah, both hotel taxes, so that 4%, and there's, I mean, I guess you can look at tourism in a lot of different, ways.
Yeah.
It could be, cheese days isn't necessarily tourism, but it is.
Could
right?
that be
The wines.
used towards like the parks?
Yes,
Okay.
because yeah, it is, because our park is
Yeah.
part of the RV, which is tourism, so.
Okay,
This is a lot. Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, if that's it, can we go to public comment? Anybody have something they want to say?
I want to comment on the rezoning, and I really support that. I see you have two, in my mind, different decisions to make, and the 505 for the out the exit 53 is one entity that will need certain considerations, and the downtown of Toledo is probably another bag of worms you need to look at. Separately, it's not one big thing, even though they present it as one. 30 years as a developer and broker, I've been on all sides of this, and I wholeheartedly agree that you've got to grab as much of exit 63 and out along I-5 as you can, because there's things already starting to happen on exit 57.
Mhm.
And once the county gets their hands on the taxes, you'll never see it again. And so that growth out there, as Napa Line has going on at their exit, is funding a lot for their town. And I think a lot of that can fund a lot of great growth and improvements around here. We've got, as I mentioned last night, as the chamber, we've got something any town in the world would want, is a river running through our town. And we've got a great potential here. When the roads open, we get 1.2 to 1.4 million people going to Mount St. Helens. And they come in this way and go out Castle Rock, or they come in Castle Rock and go out this way. I sit in my office and watch hundreds and hundreds of cars on Saturday and Sunday
Mhm.
go cruising through town, and it's car clubs and motorcycle clubs and, campers and all of that. They just don't have a reason to stop.
We understand that,
And,
yeah.
and so I think what a lot of people in this town would like, and I've been hearing it for years now, they want to keep the town the way it is. Well, that's not going to happen for a lot of reasons. But I think if we were to create Old Town Toledo, just the core, like we were talking about, the 505 portion through town, being maybe mixed use, something like that, where you could have retail or multi-family above it, something like that. We need a lot of apartments in this area. A week doesn't go by that I don't have half a dozen people wanting to rent something, but there's nothing to rent. If we had mixed use commercial, little shops underneath or professional things underneath, and maybe an apartment up above, that would be a great solution for that. Second Street, which is Ramsey Way, Morgan built a little town to scale. That was our commercial district,
I know.
and it's gone. And historically, I think we should bring that back through upzoning to commercial mixed use. And over time, as you said, people will come back in and backfill that as those properties become available. And they will do something with them that will increase the ability of this town to produce something for the town that's usable for lifestyle, and produce some revenue. Things like impact fees and all of that are great, but you can't sustain the town unless you have sales tax and property tax revenues on a regular basis.
I think you're preaching to the choir here, John. You know that, because we've talked about that for several years now, how we're going to accomplish exactly what you're trying to accomplish. I think the biggest issue for the town is the fact that right now the population doesn't support the businesses that are here. There aren't enough people here. Hopefully with development outside of the city off Vader Road and along 505, we'll get a population growth that will actually support a downtown. Because I frankly don't like seeing businesses close downtown, and they are closing.
Yeah.
But I developed for 30 years as well, and I know exactly the order of things. And they didn't develop Napa Vine by going out there and starting building. They certainly didn't. And they did do it through zoning, and I think that's what we're trying to accomplish. I think, like I said, I think you're preaching to the choir. We also want to see the downtown core stay Old Toledo. And we want to capture our retail strip, and we're not going to eminent domain anybody out of their homes. So
But you upzone it and eventually they'll see.
Eventually they will see the
much bigger
benefit.
number of their property.
Exactly, exactly. We've had that discussion and we agree with you on that. Thank you very much.
Anything we can do to help that, because there's a big talent pool out here already generating some ideas.
Well, that's what we need too, is entrepreneurs like yourselves. Being brave and bold and say, I'm gonna put this in, I'm gonna make this, that'll bring some people. Cause we can only do, we can only do so much with ordinances and all that stuff. It just takes, like you said, a reason to stop.
Well, and as things are turning over, you can see what happened here with the hardware store. They bought those warehouse buildings that were just sitting there forever. And now they're gonna create a new lumber yard and.
Garden center.
So that's increasing what can happen because they were able to finally get their hands on the property. It finally turned over. And you're gonna see a lot of turnover in the next 5 years.
Okay, anybody else? All righty, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, we are adjourned.